On today's show, we have Andy Grant.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for coming, mate.
Really nice to have you. It's good.
If people don't know, you're the star of the ITV documentary Paragon, and you were
star used loosely.
I mean, I'm going to use that, mate, because it makes me sound better because I've got a star on the show. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For you're a Royal Marine, mate.
Yeah, that's better than saying star of.
I mean,
TV
that is to me when I grew up. I was thinking to myself, like, I kind of wanted to be a Royal Marine. Like, I remember I went into the careers office at one point and I was like, they were saying like what you could choose to do, but when they said Royal Marine, there's just something about that makes you sound like a superhuman. Like, it does sound like
what
a superhero.
What do you mean makes you sound like? You do have to be superhuman.
No, but it does. Like, and you obviously had an accident at some point, didn't you, when you were in Afghanistan?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about what happened before we go into the rest of your story?
Yeah, so I'd been in the Marines at this point for maybe 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been in Afghanistan. The place where we were in Afghanistan was a place called Sangin, which was, if you can imagine, being in the most dangerous house in the most dangerous street in the most dangerous area in the most dangerous cities. That kind of sketch.
Some people know I actually do have that life.
So you know exactly what I mean. So it was not only that. You know, we knew it was bad at the time, but it's only in hindsight when you look back that in 2009 when we were out there, I think it was 108 soldiers were killed in 1 year, and they say I think 7 or 8 are injured for every one that's killed. So you know, it was a pretty bad time. On this particular morning that I was injured, it was the 3rd of February 2009. Routine foot patrol. Our objective for this day was to get to a compound where we knew Taliban were occupied, and the idea was to go out in the pitch black. 5, 5 in the morning, patrol out there, essentially give them the good news while, you know, before they could wake up and come for us. It was basically get there in the pitch black. So we were out there going on this patrol. We'd been on patrol for about maybe an hour or so, and it's February, so it's cold, it's muddy, it's raining, it's really hard to patrol across the ground because you're carrying a lot of weight, carrying all your weapon. You know, you can carry.
You carry ridiculous amounts of weight, don't you, when you do these things? It
sounds unprofessional, but sometimes the boss would be like, "Lads, if you can carry an extra few grenades or an extra, you know, rocket or a few extra link, carry it," because we knew we were going to come into contact with the enemy. So it's all right saying that, but you were carrying a lot of weight. It adds up, and
you know,
no, but just one of my best pals growing up became a Royal Marine and that, and he would go jogging with a backpack just loaded with weight, and I when I was into running, it's been a few years before the joke's fucking flying. I tried to carry the weight with him and that, and I just went, and it does make such a fucking difference.
The funny thing is, in training, you're carrying your sleeping bag, bit of water, and a few bits of clothes. And I remember in training thinking, "Fucking hell, this is heavy." This, and then you get to Afghanistan and all you're carrying is ammunition, and it weighs 10 times as much, and you realise that's proper weight. Yeah. So it really adds up.
So that was alone pretty stressful before even anything kicked off that day.
Yeah, and then the ground that you're patrolling over, it's like I say, fields and irrigation ditches, and on this particular morning we jumped over already a few ditches, and my best mate Ian got to a point when he had to jump over another ditch, and it was almost in between, if you like, these mics, it was 2 trees. And he looked at me and he said, "Andy, I'm going to jump here." I said, "Yeah, mate, I'm right behind you whenever you want to go." And I just remember him kind of jumping into the darkness. And I was the second man, just ready to go. And I waited for him to kind of leap over the ditch, and I was ready to go. And then I just heard 2 just huge explosions. And then I knew straight away. I just thought, fuck, you know, I've been blown up. And I fell back, and I had all dirt and debris in my eyes, and you know, some people say they didn't know what happened, or you know, I knew straight away, you know, something had went wrong. I fell back and I just started screaming straight away. I wasn't in any pain to start with, but I knew that, you know, I was in the middle of Afghanistan. The Taliban could have been watching. You know, I didn't know whether I'd fell into the ditch or I'd been blown 100 metres away. And I think it was more scared, screaming to let the guys know that I was, you know, where I was. You know, it was pitch black as well. You know, I wanted them to come and save me basically as quick as they could. Thankfully, I'd only fell back a metre or 2, and then the rest of the guys from the patrol, you know, ran forward and patched me up. And
what about your pal?
He'd been blown over the other side of the ditch. That was probably one of the most distressing things about it, was because he took a nasty bang to the head. So to this day, he doesn't remember anything about it, which I still give him a bit of stick for now. But he just started screaming, and it was upsetting to hear him screaming. The lads had to then get over the ditch and then use metal detectors to get to him in case there was secondary devices. So it took, a couple of minutes to get to him, and the lads are having to go as quick as they can, but obviously as careful as they can. And just hearing him screaming that, because he didn't know where he was in shock. He broke his leg, he broke his arm. But thankfully that was that. I mean, he was still really badly injured, but it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Without doubt.
And for me, it was a guy, James Smith. He was an army medic. He was attached to the Marines, and he ran forward and realised that I had a big chunk of my thigh missing. So I'd severed my femoral artery. They say you can bleed to death within 6 minutes if anything happens to that. Thankfully, he realised that. I had a tourniquet on straight away, and then another few of the lads around me were just patching me up, and I was almost just lying starfished with just guys all around me patching me up and doing everything they could to save my life. And it was it took about 40 minutes or so for them to kind of get me as stable as they could, get me on a stretcher, took me back to a field where the helicopter then come in and picked me up. But I remember that whole 40 minutes perfect.
In the pitch black, basically. Or basically in a sunrise sort of...
Well, funny enough, I had all dirt and debris in my eyes, so I couldn't, although I could hear everyone, it's just like me talking to you now. I know you're there and I can sense you're close by and I know your voices. So it was kind of like that, but I just couldn't see anything. But then after 40 minutes, as I was getting put on the helicopter, I remember feeling, sometimes you can't see, but I know there's a light there. I could tell that it was becoming, the sun was rising, and although I couldn't see it was just a strange feeling to know that you can't see anything that's going on, but you're in the moment. You can feel it, you can smell it, it was a crazy morning.
Did you feel much pain in your leg at that point?
Not for the first 10 minutes, and then fucking
because we had a fella on last week who had injuries to his leg through heroin use, and we showed those pictures, and it turned people's stomachs.
Yeah.
Just to put this into perspective, I'll try and have a picture shown of your injury. It puts those to shame. The chunk out of your leg is huge. I mean, just shocking. It's probably the worst injury I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was
that someone's lived through. Do you know what I mean?
How the leg was still attached, I've got no idea, to be honest. And it just goes to its credit to the lads in the Marines and James, the army medic, who, they kept it cool, and they saw that, and especially in the pitch black, having to deal with it, and I wouldn't be sitting here now if it wasn't for them. I owe my life to them, and it was the pain. When I try and describe it to people, if the inside of your body, or maybe your grandparents or your mum or dad grab your leg when you're a kid and you squeeze your thigh, it almost felt like someone had a like kind of small surface area in the inside, but really pushed in. But then like 1,000 ton was on top of it, going on top of a very small surface area in the middle of my thigh. It was just a deep throbbing pain, and again I couldn't see, and I just kept on saying to the lads, "Have I still got my arms and legs?" And they said, "Yeah, Andy, don't worry, you've still got them." And I was like, "Lads, don't fucking lie to me. Have I still got my arms and legs?" And they said, "Yeah, Andy, you've got a bit of a gash in your leg, we're sorting it out, don't worry." And I was like, "Fuck, there's something really wrong with my right leg." I know there is. And then when they said we've got a tourniquet on there, I'd casevaced guys who'd been injured, and I'd seen that, I'd done the training, I'd seen it all for myself, so I knew if there's a tourniquet on the leg or the limb, you're probably going to lose it. And I thought I must have lost my leg. They're lying to me, because why have I got a tourniquet on otherwise? And he said, "Andy, man, shut up. Listen, you're all right. We're sorting you out." And it was just that, like you call it, the black humour, the commando humour. It was just taking the piss. And we had a five-a-side football tournament going. Me and Ian, who'd been blown up with the top goal scorers in, funnily enough, and the lads are just saying, "You're not going to be winning the league now, are you?" And then you jammy bastard, you get to go home early and stuff. And the pain was there, but thankfully the lads they put morphine into me, but I don't even think that worked. It was excruciating, the pain, but the lads were just doing a good job to speak to me and to try and keep my mind occupied, really.
I mean, can we go back to when you joined the Marines, mate?
Yeah.
I've been in those recruitment centres before, I thought about it myself, and when you sign up to do something like defend your country, I personally, when I was looking into it, I had this image of what it would be like almost the glory of it, you know what I mean? And to go from that to where you ended up. It wasn't part of the plan, is it? It's not what you think about when you say, even though you know it's a possibility. Yeah. It's definitely not in your mind that will one day happen to you.
To be honest, sounds really stupid and naive, but I didn't ever think, I'd go to war. It sounds ridiculous because we were already at war in Iraq and Afghanistan, but I don't know, when I joined, I was doing A-levels at the time. I was doing English and history at A-level. And I got to the point where I was in sixth form and I was skipping classes just to chat to the girl, in the common room. I was just thinking, my heart's not in this. I'm doing an A-level just to kind of almost please me dad, almost to say to him, look, I'm going to go to uni and get a degree. And just education at that point wasn't ticking for me. And I saw an advert for the Royal Marines, and it said 99.99% need not apply. And I would say, like, being the cocky 17-year-old at the time, I thought, I'll give that a go.
I remember that advert vividly because I think that was one of the adverts that got me.
He goes through the tunnel, and it's like he gets caught underwater, and he's
drowning, and then the guy pulls him up.
And he gasped for air.
That was like hook, line and sinker for me. I need to give that a go.
Those lads, they want to be a part of the elite, and that's what the Marines are, especially like, the hard bastards, do you know what I mean? And you've always been, by what I can tell, even post-injury, you want to push yourself.
Yeah. I've always been really competitive. I could never understand how anyone would go into their careers office and someone could say, the Marines are the best, and then you've got the parachute regiment, and then you've got the Army, then the RAF, then the Navy, whatever order. I could never understand why anyone would need to hear anything else after they say that's the best one to go for. I mean, I know everyone's different, but for me personally, my kind of competitive nature, once that was the longest and hardest training on offer, I thought, well, you've got to give that a go.
How old were you when you went in again?
17.
Like, because I know lads who, one of my pals, he passed out at 16. And
that's a tough going,
And he was given a lot of credit for that. He was one of the only lads to do it at that age in so many years or whatever.
Yeah.
And to me, to do that at that age, you're a baby. Like, when I walk past 17, 16-year-old kids now, because obviously the recognisers, they come up for photographs and whatever.
They look like kids.
To imagine them going in and holding a gun in the hand and fighting for this country, it's amazing. Do you know what I mean?
I look at myself now and I look at some of the photos and I think, how was I allowed to go and do that type thing when I look back now? It's I think there's pros and cons with joining early. I think physically you find it easier when you join. And I think sometimes mentally as well, you can cope a little bit better. I went from sixth form, getting used to getting told what to do. So when they were telling me to do press-ups and run here and run there and getting spoken to like shit, I was thinking I'm kind of used to this almost. But then when you see fellas maybe 24, 25 joining up who've had jobs, maybe got wives, girlfriends, kids or whatever, and then they join and they're getting told to,
they're getting spoken like shit.
I think they find that a little bit harder to deal with, whereas for me, being a bit younger, you kind of just take that, don't you?
They say that with some of the football managers as well. They say that's why certain football managers want young players. It's because if you're 24, 25, you've almost gotten into a habit. Yeah. Because they're quite formative years. You form your habits in those times.
Definitely, yeah.
You've got a sense of who you are at that point as well. You're not as mouldable.
Exactly. Whereas if you get them before that and you get them at 17, 18, you've got someone who they don't know what the working world's like. They don't know, you don't quite know how you're sort of forming that relationship with other guys and those sort of things. So you can mould that and completely tell them.
I remember getting paid £600 was my first wage. I was thinking I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
And then there's lads there who maybe left 30, 40 grand a year jobs thinking, what the fuck am I going to do with this? Doesn't even cover my mortgage or something. So yeah, there's a big difference. But again, it's great for growing up. You learn so much about yourself. I left home 17, 300 miles away and being around fellas who kind of took you under the wing, and you learn a lot about yourself very quickly.
Is there quite an appeal of that? Because that is something that I think a lot of people join the army for. Is a lot of people want to go and live. They want to live a real life. Do you know what I mean? They want to go and experience something.
Yeah, I think for me it was just doing something a bit different. I always think one of the inspirations for me joining was I always wanted. My mum passed away when I was a kid, and I'm not really religious in that sense. I mean, I believe she's looking down on me in some way, and I've always wanted to do her proud. And I think I've always felt maybe a little bit different because I was one of the only kids in the school who lost their mum. So I think feeling a little bit different and wanting to do something a bit different led me down that route in the Marines. And I think wanting to go and, like you say, live your life, move away and do something a bit different, go out there and experience different things. I think joining the Marines ticked so many more boxes than just being in sixth form for the sake of it.
Are you quite a patriotic guy, do you think?
Not really, no. Which is another thing people.
You're from Liverpool. Liverpool's not a very patriotic city.
Say, Scouse not English and stuff. It's I seen a thing with Jamie Carragher something, an interview that he'd done, and he said, I think it was, I can't remember what he was with, and I think it's like a Newcastle, similar kind of, I think, Scousers, but it's, I never watch England now. The football team.
If someone said to me once, World Cup for England or an FA Cup for Newcastle, I'd just laugh at them.
If someone said to me a World Cup for England or a World Cup for Ivory Coast, I'll go for Ivory Coast. Do you know what I mean?
Just to see the
you're very passionate Ivory Coast strain.
Côte d'Ivoire, as we call it.
Well, so, all right, so you lost your mum at how old were you when you lost your mother?
I was 12.
Right, so that's an extremely hard thing for a young lad to go through.
Was that quite sudden?
Opinion.
Was that something quite sudden?
She was, she was diagnosed in May with leukemia, and then she passed away in September.
Yeah.
So it was quite sudden, and that's one of the things. Now I want to do these kind of motivational talks. Even people think that it's just going to be all about the Marines and getting blown up, but for me, that was by far the hardest thing I've ever been through in my life, and I think ever will. I was a real mummy's boy as well. I mean, I used to go to the corner shop, for a pint of milk, and I'd say, "I love you, mum. See you soon."
Yeah.
My dad would take the mick. You're only going to the shop. Bloody hell,
I seen your dad get in the interview on the documentary, and he's not a mollycoddler type dad by the looks of it. Yeah, he would have been the harder of the two.
Yeah. I mean, I remember him saying for years growing up, he always wished he'd died, because he always felt that my mum would have done a better job of bringing us up, just because she was a bit more, like mums are motherly, whereas my dad, we're best mates now. We go for a pint, but again, he's not the type of fellow where hugs and kisses and how are you, son, and all that type thing, where obviously my mum wasn't. So that was the tough thing growing up, being such a mummy's boy, hugs and kisses, love you mums and all that, then to suddenly have it taken away. And it's a lot of credit to my dad that he's done a good job, and I've got 2 younger sisters as well, and he's done a really good job bringing us up.
I mean, for me, I've lost people close to me before, and one thing death made me feel was like a sense of you can't let time go by without trying to achieve what you want to achieve in life. And I feel like maybe did you get a sense of that? Because some people going into the Marines will be thinking, oh God, but I think when you've experienced death before, I think you fear it a little less than the average.
100%, yeah. It was that thing almost, even forgetting about war, just getting in the Marines, that whole thing, they'll try and break it and stuff. I was thinking, bloody hell, I broke quite a lot when I was 12. I was thinking they can't break me any more than they did.
You would have hardened a hell of a lot at that age,
so
mate.
I think that kind of feeling of, I've been through all this shit, come on, what else can you throw at me? I think that's definitely helped me in later life.
What was it like growing up in Liverpool? Like, because you grew up in Bootle, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny thing with that is, I mean, I don't know about you, where you grew up, but I loved it. I've got all my best mates are still from Bootle, and you don't know what you don't know, do you? So you grow up and everything's normal. And I remember watching the other week, I think it was Secret Millionaire, where someone goes to a rough area or something, no one knows he's a secret millionaire, and I pressed the little I button on the Sky remote and the information came up, the synopsis, and it said, Richard Jones or whatever visits Bootle, one of the most deprived areas in the UK.
Yeah.
I thought
that's the way it's portrayed all the time now. Knife crime, all these sort of things.
Yeah. And I suppose, it is rough, but for me, it was home, and I still only live 5 minutes away from it now. I'm still drinking the same pubs in Bootle and stuff, and it probably is rough, but for me, it's home. It's everyone's football mad. Red or the blue. Everyone, all my best mates and family there. So it's probably gets a bad image, but when it's your home, then
Liverpool gets a pretty bad media rep anyway, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think when you
probably
go
like
there,
being in the Sangin in Afghanistan, it's like being in the Bootle in Liverpool.
That was something that really interested me, was just the way you talk about being out in Afghanistan, and obviously it's because I think when I think of going to another country, I'm like, oh, go see the sights, go see this, go see that. And you're talking about the terrain and those sort of things. Do you think as a Marine you get a feel for the country, or are you quite, because obviously you're in a base which is fully fortified, you don't necessarily trust, you don't know who to trust or who not to trust?
No, it depends a lot on your job when you're there. I mean, for me, I was static, so we were just in a compound, and so we'd patrol, a few miles out, where there was other lads I know who had like strike ops jobs, so they were going in and out on helos, helicopters going. They'd spend a day or two there coming back. So I suppose I got a little bit of a feel for the area I was in, but you're talking a few square miles. It wasn't really, you wasn't getting
when you're
a huge country, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you were in Iraq, am I right in thinking you were helping their army to sort of learn how to patrol and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really complex, to be honest, depending where you were in Iraq. For me, I was in a place called Unkazar, which was on the port. And it was real chilled out for me, to be honest. Didn't fire my weapon once, wasn't shot at once. And it was basically the Royal Navy were there trying to teach the Iraqi Navy about, better skills and drills, how to basically look after themselves a lot better when we were going to pull out. And then there was about 10, 15 Royal Marines there who were acting as basically the bodyguards. We were the force protection troop. So when there was big meetings with all the big Royal Navy officers and the Iraqi officers, we just go and basically escort them and
stand there with a gun.
Basically, just bodyguarding, which was, I learned a hell of a lot, and we got to interact a lot with the people.
You talk about like having to pull out of that country. Did you ever think about the politics of everything when you were signing up? Or, because for me personally, I wouldn't have. When you talk about the reasons you joined up for the Marines, I wouldn't have been thinking of, we're raw for this reason, that reason. That would have came a lot later in my life. Did you ever think about that joining?
No, the same. I was just like, I want to prove myself as a Royal Marine. I want to get my green beret. And there was a few moments in training when actually I think maybe we'd fucked up and they'd be giving us a bollocking and they'd be going, I don't think you fuckers realise that the day you pass out of here, the week later you'll be on a flight to Afghanistan. And there's a few times where I thought, bloody hell, actually, this is real. But as far as thinking about the reasons why we're there, you can't really do that. It's people get paid a lot more money than I do to make these big decisions, and in a way, you're just following orders in that sense. And I think I didn't think we should know what we know now in hindsight. We should never have went to Iraq, but at the time, what am I going to say? Ring up Tony Blair and say, all right, so you got this one wrong,
this one. Yeah, no, sorry, not this tour, mate. No.
That cunt wouldn't have fucking picked up anyway, would he? Let's be honest.
I don't think he knows how to work a phone. But that's what put me off even considering the army. I mean, there's a lot of stereotypes. We had an army recruitment centre that I think every lad in our town went to, and one of my best friends from home was considering joining the army at one time. I remember just being like, "What are you doing, mate? Like, why are you doing this?" Because I remember at the time thinking I wouldn't want to go to Afghanistan or Iraq. Part of what would demotivate me would be like, I don't feel like I'm defending my country. There's a difference between defence and offence. Do you know what I mean? Being
totally,
like a political pawn.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I think, to be honest, when I was 16 and I was doing A-levels, I think there was times when I had people joining and I was thinking, what are you joining for? But I think a lot of credit of that goes to the Marines, because it didn't feel like you were almost just going there I felt like, again, it sounds really stupid now and really naive, but it didn't feel like I was joining the Marines to go to Afghanistan. I was joining this brotherhood of...
It's an organisation, isn't it?
One of the big things, I went on a Meet the Marines Day in Liverpool, and that was the thing for me that really thought, I want to be part of these. It was almost having a man crush on these lads I met, and they met at the Albert Dock in Liverpool, and they took us to Alcar, which is a range just outside of Liverpool. They picked us up on a minibus, and kind of young, I'm 17 at the time, and these are young lads, maybe 23, 24, good looking lads, real built.
Aye.
And they're talking about being on the piss last night.
Got the green fucking berets as well.
I think they've been bloody out with birds all night or whatever, and they're coming from out of Liverpool, coming to town in the Marines, big lads doing this, and then they're taking us, and I'm thinking throughout the day I'm developing this man crush on these lads, thinking I want to be mates with this fella here. I want to be like him. And again, it was never, I'm joining to go to Afghanistan. It was, I want to be a part of this organisation. I want to be able to say, I'm a Royal Marine, and go around the country like these lads are, and have just something about you. You just
totally
just
understand what you mean, mate.
It doesn't feel political, does it? It doesn't feel. It's about being part of that group.
Yeah.
Because we've shot with them. I shot with the Army, the Navy. Not shot with the Air Force, but both of those, and both times.
By shot, you don't mean you pulled a gun out with them.
shot on camera. What was funny was when we finished it, we went to an army base. I can't remember where it was, but we got a whole day inside tanks and all sorts of things. And they came up to us afterwards, and it was a real pleasure shooting with you. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, mate, absolutely.
Yeah, no problem.
But you realise also the mentality in the army they instill you with is you're not a civilian anymore. We're civvies, and you guys are the other type.
And it becomes even more so depending on like the army or the Marines or the Navy. They've all got their own particular things, And I remember being in the Marines and in training, they kind of break you down and build you up that they want, and which I think is a great way to do it, because their reasoning for doing that. Well, one of them I got told was going through training. If they show you, no matter how basic the task is, if they physically show you, then you've got no excuse. No matter how basic it is, they can say, I was there, I showing you how to do it. I remember standing there, and week one, day one, you got a fella 60 guys, 60 recruits standing there in the shower, watching a fella have a shower. You think, I'm bloody 17, or this fella's older than me, thinking I know how to bloody wash my balls, and then you're getting shown how to literally do everything.
No, they literally pull their cock and balls out and say, and this is how you wash your dick and balls.
And your man crush is completely gone then, you know?
Or for some, they may be thinking, can you rub that a little more?
The Marines is for me, yes.
Show me that bit again, please.
Yeah.
And I think it's obviously one of those where it doesn't need to be done, but I think it's more of a mental thing to say, look, you're doing things our way now.
It's back to that. I mean, there's something also quite very weird about being told how to wash yourself, because that's also quite a personal thing, isn't it? That must be such an unusual situation to be in.
And the reason is, if you can't look after yourself, if you can't, keep yourself clean, keep your kit clean, keep your bedside clean, in a nice warm environment where you're eating 3 meals a day and you're not getting shot at, if you can't do that at the simplest of times, you've got no chance when you're in the middle of a desert.
And is that part of the, when the officers come in and they're screaming in people's faces, that is to train you to be used to the extreme, because when you are in the real extreme, you will be able to handle it a bit better.
I think and no, I think there's definitely times where they are like that at you, and it is tough, but a lot of the times as well in the Marines anyway, I can't break it down. The first 15 weeks was just all bullshit, just to try and get rid of you and thinking, how much do you want it? And a lot of the time they wouldn't even shout. It would just be really calm, like, go in, 20 press-ups, go, that tree back to me, go. And sometimes they would shout, and it would be that kind of getting you wound up. But then the other times it'd be, look, if you don't want to be here, we don't want you either. So it's that kind of.
Did you ever see any young hard-headed lad just turn on one of the officers and have a go? Any fight, like anyone try and take one on?
I've never seen it. No. I wouldn't have tried it.
Wouldn't be recommended. Like,
I mean, it's scary. You obviously,
but sometimes you get a 17-year-old who, for whatever reason's just got a bomb on his right hand, and he could just knock anyone out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The funny thing is, you get so many walks of life in the Marines. We had a guy, I always remember him. His name was Rob Andrews, and he was a gymnast. Small lad, but and the training team used to make him do backflips. They'd like, come on, Rob, come and show us another trick, and this guy would run. So the great thing is, you'd get a lot of people in sports and like a gymnast, and people who are really fit lads. But the good thing about the Marines is, and no disrespect, I mean, you'd have a lot of banter with the Army and the Navy, calling they're not as good as the Marines and all that. And I'm not, in the nicest possible way, not being disrespectful, but in the Marines you get a bit more, I always thought, mature kind of lad who's a bit more educated, a bit more.
Well, I remember when I went down to the recruitment centre and I gave them my GCSEs, and then fucking somehow I'd had decent GCSEs because I just picked things up decently. But they said, we would recommend you either be a Royal Marine or an Army officer. Like, that would be your starting point.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, why? And they were like, oh, they're pretty much like the
You've
best.
got an A here.
You got an A for English, champion.
Yeah, you can speak.
To be honest, I flunked that. It was a descriptive writing exam. I said what it was like to write in an exam. So
that's brilliant.
Kind of cheating, isn't it?
Say what you see. Yeah.
Really. Just have to look around.
Inspirational.
But you're obviously talking about the physical side of things. You're obviously very gifted physically to have the record that you've gone on to have. When you're in training, did you feel like you were one of the better lads, or how did you feel like you fit?
Yeah, I thought I was in the. I think, again, going back to the age, I was 17, so I was quite young and fit. I was playing football, and so I felt quite fit. I was always in the top third of the fitness stuff. But when it come to when it went to putting weight on, as the training went on, the weight increased. The other thing about the Marines is they don't throw you into deep end straight away. The last week of training, you're expected to run 30 miles, carrying 60, 70 pounds worth of kit. That's not week one, day one. You're starting off very progressively. As the training went on and the Bergens got heavier and heavier, I struggled a bit with that. Some of the kind of lads a bit like you, a bit bigger, struggled. Was better with the long.
Yeah, because the weight to body ratio wasn't as
sometimes
dramatic.
I was carrying. I only weighed probably about 65 kilos. I was probably carrying Bergens weighing 50 or something myself. So it was. I think for the smaller, younger lads, quite nippy.
What did they call that final march that they do again?
Yomp.
Aye, was that like 30 mile? Fucking hell.
How long does that take?
You get 8 hours to do it. It's across Dartmoor, though, so it's all over hills. And what's the tough thing about that is you have 4 commando tests, and that's the 4th one. So you're fucked off the previous 3.
That's sort of, and you've always got that in your head. At the end of that, that's the big what you're doing. Yeah.
But that's a great day. I mean, I cried like a baby running around that. It was the hardest thing I'd done at that point. But then at the end, it's the final one. You're going to get your green beret.
Yeah. How did you feel when you got that green beret? When you had it in your hand?
It's the best feeling. I think I was on the coach, coming home, like, tears in my big lump in my throat, you know, ringing my dad and saying, I've done it. Like, it was, I think just because I'd left home at 17, you know, trying to do my mum proud, trying to do my dad proud, and I didn't want to go back to Liverpool saying...
With nothing.
Yeah, and say, I tried, but, you know, I didn't. And I'd met people in the pub and stuff before I joined. You know, what dad's like, my dad was like, oh, my lad's joining the Marines, and I'd met a few people who'd said, I was gonna join the Marines, or I was in the Marines, and you'd asked them about it, and they'd say, I got to week 20 and I dropped out, and you think, you weren't really in the Marines then, mate. So I didn't want to be one of those people.
In the pub.
And then when I got it, and, you know, they give you it, and you get your Royal Marine Commando flashes that you can sew onto your camo thing, I was like, wow, it was... it was emotional, mate. I think just because it was nearly a year of my life that it took to get.
When you've already been through a bit of hell, like, you know, emotionally from losing your mother, and then going through all this physical stress and that, and getting that reward at the end of it, you can say, I've done you proud, man.
You realise how mental it is as well, though, don't you? How important it is to have a solid mentality for this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, but I think my mum there helped my mentality so much over it. You know, I always used to... Again, it sounds a bit of a hypocrite. I'm not religious, but I always remember just doing that sign of the cross and just saying, right, come on, mum, like, help me through this and stuff. And having that, I think, going through that at a young age definitely helped me become mentally stronger. And when I did get the knockbacks and setbacks and, you know, things like that, it was, again, going back to what we said before, it was like, listen, all right, you might have knocked a little chink out of me, but I've been broken a lot more before today. So
having a mother though who loved you as much as obviously she did, that love doesn't leave you. It's like it stays with you. So like, even when obviously her physical body left this like earth and all that, like you still got that. It doesn't ever leave you. So when you're in that pain of the commando training centre and you're going through everything, that's still there. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%. I always think like the love she's shown me in those 12 years was enough to last me a lifetime.
1,000,000%. No.
You know, and it was, you know, I think about it all the time now. You know, when I've done this run, just lately, you know, most days, you know, you think about it and stuff. So it was nice to be able to think. And for my dad as well. You know, my dad got dealt a pretty shit hand, you know, because it was out the blue. You know, she never. It was leukemia. It's just no one really had an answer for it. So I think for my dad, you know, for him to have, and he's a fireman, he's like, again,
he's like a proper bloke, isn't he? Yeah, you could tell that on the document. I remember thinking to myself, like, because I feel like I'm a sort of bloke who'd have a pint with that man in the pub, you know. I thought, fuck me, if I'd been in his situation. Yeah. He's quite
a quiet fella, just, you know, kind of drinks like in Bootle, like the old man's pub, where, you know, just those pubs which, you know, are kind of dying out now, sadly, but, you know, you go there and I just felt so sorry for him, you know, having to bring up 2 little girls as well, you know, doing bloody ponytails with them and stuff, and I'm thinking, bloody hell, Dad, I
can't even imagine him, because like after seeing him, like he's doing like ponytails and stuff.
So to get to that point where I thought, you know, whatever I've done now or go on to do, at least I know now I've kind of, he's done a good job of raising me, that he's raised you know, he's raised the Marine, if you like, so it's a big thing for me.
So what happens after that? Because obviously after you lose your leg, that must be quite, for someone who's...
Even going from the point of the accident to losing the leg was quite a long and drawn out thing, wasn't it? It didn't happen overnight.
How do you refer to that? You call it losing a leg? What do you say? The Marines have it?
Lost my leg, yeah. I always think it's funny. There's no right way. Like when someone says an accident, I think the Taliban bloody meant to do it. It wasn't an accident.
Yeah. Oh, what horrible! Oh well, they shouldn't have left that there, should they? Yeah. What are they doing, leaving their bombs about? They're silly boys.
I'm not heard anyone say, it was a good job. Taliban's done a good job there, did this sort of thing. So,
I mean, you joke about it, but for them, that probably is also something that's quite important. You know, they are getting hits on Marines and people like that at that time.
Yeah, I mean, they weren't, you know, the sign of a really successful team, whether it's in business or in sport or the military, is being able to adapt. And they realised that they could never win in a straight firefight with us. We were better trained, had better weaponry. So they just switched tactics and started laying IEDs everywhere. And, you know, it's just like a lottery. You know, I've got friends who are some of the best soldiers in the world who've been killed and have been injured. Because, you know, it's, you know, what can you do? You can't really defend against it. And unfortunately, that was what became their weapon of choice.
Did you, when you were at war, did you see any lads lose their life?
So one of my best friends, another Scouser, we lost one lad. How we only lost one lad on that tour, I've got no idea. We had probably lost about bloody 10 limbs on that tour, but we only had one lad who lost his life. And it was a really weird one. It was 2 weeks after I was injured, so it must have been around about the 20th of February or something. And previous to this, about a couple of months before, I had a friend who got shot in the neck, survived. Don't ask me how. I'll try and get the photo for you, son. It's a crazy photo. And he literally got shot in the neck, took a big chunk out, but thankfully survived. And he literally just had a bandage on his neck and just walked back to the helicopter. Went back to the UK for a few weeks, come back and survived. Went back out, had a great big scar on his neck. Probably gets him loads more beds now, and jobs are good. And so then months later, I get injured, and then I hear news that one of the lads has been shot. Got shot in the neck. And straight away you think, oh, fucking hell, is he dead? But then I thought, hang on, my mate Rob's been shot in the neck. It's, it could be.
It's either way.
And I asked the nurse, I said, I believe one of my friends is coming in, Mick Lasky his name was. And she said, how do you know? Yeah, he's coming in, but he's going straight to intensive care, And she said, how well do you know Mick? And I said, yeah, there was 2 Scousers in our base in Afghanistan, so we always had a good laugh and, good friends with him. And I went down to see him, and for him, he wasn't as lucky as Rob. It went through his neck and it severed the wrong things, and he was basically alive but brain damaged, and they kept him alive basically to turn the machines off with his family around him. And Mick had actually lost his mum in the summer, so I'm looking at this. We got to go down, and it was such a weird feeling because I was there, Ian, who had been blown up, was there, and my mate Johnny had lost an arm and a leg. So there's me bandaged head to toe with this big cage on my leg, Ian bandaged head to toe, Johnny missing an arm and a leg, and they let us go down to see Mick. And he was lying there completely fine. He just, his chin looked a bit swollen, and I'm thinking, how's this fair? I've been blown up, he's lost an arm and a leg, we're all bits here and there, and yet we're alive, and just one little
a millimetre
scar, and he was dead, and they had to turn the machines off when his family was around, and so that was the one guy we lost, and that was tough to go through to see that, because it was just so unlucky, you think. And then that's when you start maybe the political thing that I never thought of before. You start thinking, why is this even happened? But
you must be, obviously you've got a lot of time on your hands, you're lying in a hospital bed, your brain must go into a lot of places at that point of asking why this and why that, did it?
Yeah, oh definitely, yeah. I think it only does that though, I think, when you go through those hard times. I never ever, on the days when we had firefights with the Taliban and we got a few of them and we all came back safe, no one really thought it's a great day. We've not, everyone's still alive and kicking, but on those days when things don't go right, that's when you start questioning things, and that's when you need to really come together, I think. That's why I feel really lucky that the injuries that I had, as severe as they were, I was surrounded by Ian, who had been blown up with, and his family and my family. I had guys all around in the ward you could bounce off. So when you had those dark days and you started questioning the why and this is bullshit and all that kind of stuff, you had guys there to say, come on, and they'd pull you through the dark days and you pull them through theirs. And I think that's the big
one thing that hit me, and I mean it's kind of a little bit like this in the job I did before YouTube, which I worked as a diver, like offshore and that, and it's that sort of, when things do go wrong, you got that banter and it's like that dark humour, but at the worst time, if you can have a bit crack, it just lifts everyone's spirits. And I feel like in the army and the navy and everything, like they're the best for that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
it can be relentless at times, but it's what you need, straight away though, I think the quicker it gets done, and sometimes as close to as edgy as you can get it, that's what you need. And the amount of jokes and what lads are doing with the prosthetic legs, especially going through rehab and you're getting your prosthetic legs and stuff, and lads are getting prosthetics arms and grabbing people's asses and stuff when they're out on a night out, and all those jokes and stuff that come later on just massively helped. And the joke I always had with Ian, who I got blown up with, he took a nasty bang to the head, so he didn't remember anything, and he woke up from his coma a couple of days before me. He's got all his family around him, and I wake up, got my dad there, has a good cry with my dad, and then I looked at him and I said, my dad said, look who's next to you. So I turned and Ian was in the bed next to me, and Ian says, mate, what happened there? I don't remember. I remember going to sleep the night before I wake up and I'm here. He said, I've been waiting for you to wake up so you can tell me what happened. I'm looking at him going, do you really not remember what happened? He said, no, mate, I've not got a clue. I said, you got us fucking blown up by jumping over that ditch. And straight away he's like, did I? And I was like, fucking yeah, you did, yeah. And straight away, you know, it just stopped any kind of, oh, you know, what are we, oh God, let's feel sorry for ourselves. And then that was it then, just the banter flowing. And I had a tube down my throat, so when I was in a coma, so when they took that out, I couldn't breathe, I couldn't speak properly, my voice was really croaky. And Ian's saying, mate, I can't hear you, your Scouse accent was bad enough anyway, never mind now, what are you saying? And so just all that, it just helps with the recovery. Because
obviously some people, I mean, it's sad, but like some people do get post-traumatic stress and things like that, and a lot of people, well, you hear the stories a lot where people leave the armed forces, and years after, sometimes they're still having nightmares and bad dreams and things, and just struggling. But you seem to have dealt with everything really well, considering.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've still had times where I've, I've felt it, and it's not been easy and stuff, but I think in general, just opening up and speaking about things has massively helped me, whether it's been to my family or friends. And then since getting into the motivational speaking, I always think, like, I talk about it pretty much every day now. So I don't really put it in a box and put it anywhere and never open it, because it's getting opened all the time and getting openly spoken about, like today. So I think, I mean, obviously no one knows what triggers PTSD or anything like that, but for me, I think always talking about it from very early on has massively helped. And having guys around to talk to me, like, thankfully I'm really good friends with Ian still, who we got injured with, me and him speak about that day, you know, whenever, and we still speak all the time. And again, I wish there was a right answer, that if people opened up and then it would all go away, and I know it's not as easy as that, but I can only speak from my experience, and I'd encourage people to open up and speak about it and don't let it fester away. Again, that's not to say I've not had dark times and I don't miss the Marines and I don't, you know, wish things were different sometimes, but like you say, you got one life, you know, you've got to go and get on with things and you know, seek help, and then once you've got that help, you know, use that and then push on to the next thing then, and try not to focus on the negatives, and, you know, try and push on. And luckily enough, I've not really had any experience with PTSD myself personally.
Do you have any like, what was struck me was the way you talk about it. It's a very individual level, so you've got your own experience there. The army is often a concept for many people. That Afghanistan's a concept, Iraq's a concept. These are all things that we don't. Like, you
hear about them on the news, but
exactly.
And you see a little bit of footage, and then it's like today, and then it's on to the next subject.
But that footage looks like, I wouldn't know the difference between terrain in Iraq and terrain in Afghanistan. I wouldn't know the difference. You know, it's all, you know, looks very similar. My first memory of conflict is what happened in Kosovo. So the first thing I remember on the news was in like 96, 97, people talking about the tanks, and that felt a little bit closer, but Iraq and Afghanistan feel a very long way away. And what strikes me is when you're talking about things like the Taliban as well, those are people who, I imagine, if they were in England, would be part of the army.
Yeah, possibly.
Do you know what I mean? Because, and you realise they're people on that side who have got their own ideology, whether they're right or wrong, you know, you don't want to get into those sort of details, but
fighting for a cause.
They're fighting for what they believe is a cause, and they're sort of indoctrinated in the same way as we have our side. Do you ever think about that side of war, the people you're fighting against? Because, you know, you're talking about them being in firefights with people. Yeah. You could almost look the guy in the eye sometimes.
That's what's funny when you speak to people about Afghanistan, and no one kind of has got a clue what it's like, I don't think. I think Ross Kemp's done a decent programme, and I thought that was quite realistic, to be honest. But when you see on the news, it doesn't really paint a picture. One thing that always I found, I do this kind of thing in the presentations that I do, and the craziest thing for me on a daily basis and my interactions with the Taliban was we would have an interpreter with us who would basically listen into what the Taliban was saying on radios and then relay the message back to us. So I've been in Afghanistan a week or so, and we're on top of a compound roof, and I think there's 8 of us on this roof. You're looking out, you see the odd goat walking by, the odd farmer, really eerie silence, 10 o'clock in the morning, baking hot day, nothing going on. And then this interpreter shouted up and said, lads, just to let you know, the Taliban are talking and they can see 8 people sitting on the roof. And you kind of have one of these moments where you kind of like,
there's
8 of us on this roof, lads.
I'd shit myself then.
And you're looking around, there's no one there. And then, 10 minutes or so passes, and then the interpreter says, lads, just to let you know, the plan is once you all get down and you're in the middle of that open field, that's when they're gonna kind of shoot at you. And he's giving you a running commentary of what the enemy are gonna do until eventually you go down and it happens. And I think in some ways, you know, you've got to respect the Taliban in that sense, that they, you know, as a fighter, in the sense that they're doing what they can with what resources they've got in that sense. But, and like you say, if they're fighting for a cause, no matter how crazy it is, you know, that's what they're fighting for. It was just, for me on the ground there, it was just crazy to think that that's how, you know, the firefights were happening. Like you say, Kosovo or World War I and II, the different ways people have shot at each other, if you like, do you know what I mean? Whereas this one I found, I'm sitting on top of this compound, and then as I go from that next compound, there's a good chance that as we're walking across that open field, we're going to get shot at.
So what do you do when you hear that? Because obviously you guys you think in strategy. Are you talking to each other and saying, you make a plan at that point? Because do you have to cross that open field?
A lot of the time it was something we used to call advance to ambush, because of the rules of engagement. A lot of the time you couldn't shoot at them, and there were so many ticks in the boxes you need to have before you could engage with them. So a lot of the time it was kind of walking until they engage with you. So it was kind of saying, right, come on, start shooting at us so we can kind of take it to you.
Which is crazy, really.
Yeah.
To think, like,
ridiculous.
The bureaucracy of you going, and they shot, brilliant, and we go. Do you know, there's something so weird.
You'd be really good at that job of ticking the box.
No,
I think you'd be brilliant
I'm
at that.
bad at box tick. I hate pencil pushing.
Get you to the front, get you to run out, then you can draw in the shot.
Right, guys.
I'm very quick. You know what I mean? Yeah. But so are you making a plan, or like, what's the idea at that point?
Well, so yeah, I mean, there's always a plan, you know, and thankfully I've always had really good bosses and corporals and sergeants that, you know, I trusted and followed. And, you know, you're thinking about it as well, and, you know, the objective of the day, you've got to try and do the objective, no matter where the Taliban are and what they're doing. That's got to be almost a bit of a, okay, you know they're there, but you can't let that affect your whole mission, because, you know.
Do you know when you get the objective for the day, mate? Do you get the fellow in charge is just basically telling you a rundown of what's got to happen in that day? When you're watching on the movies and all that, it's, you know, we won't go dying into the night. Yeah. We will not go down. Like, it's not like that at all, is it? It's so.
Or is it? It might be. You never know.
Right. No, I mean, if you want to make it out like that, that's fine.
Yeah. Do you want me to? Yeah, do two versions.
But it is just. It's quite chilled out compared to the way it's made out to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time you'll have orders the day before, so, you know, you're not all hyped up and G'd up because it's the day before anyway. So you just get your orders. You know what you're gonna do. You've prepped, and then I think there's this kind of that the Americans really like woo every time and all that. Whereas for us, it was never any of that. I mean, just
the Americans like to make everything a movie, don't they? Like, they feel like they live in a movie. A lot of them.
The only thing that I've ever seen which really struck me as in a war movie, because I watched quite a few war movies for my degree. That was the closest I ever got to war.
Close enough, isn't it?
What was the movie? There was a guy who was embedded. It was a one-word movie. It was like Invictus or something like that. And you realise how different Americans are and how differently they see the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. Yeah. And there's one scene in that movie where there's a guy who's been blown clean in half, and they've got his top half and they've got his bottom half, and it's just all to see on camera. And I'd never seen anything like that before. This guy, like, and you think of it like quite clean. Do you know what I mean? But you realise how dirty it is, just everything just hanging out of him. And they're still being American about it, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way.
What were they celebrating? Do you mean?
No, not celebrating. Like it was one of their own. It was one of their own guys.
All right, yeah.
But it looks like it's such a different approach than you imagine an English person would approach it.
Yeah, I never dealt with them. I dealt with them. I was on the same camp with them in Iraq, but again, nothing really happened in Iraq. In Afghanistan, I remember one time we'd found a bomb factory. We'd literally stumbled across this bomb factory, and then we tried to get EOD in to blow it up, but we needed to use the Americans. So a few of us went back to our base where the helicopter was going to land, so we could escort these Americans to where the bomb factory was.
And they all put their hamburgers down.
And
well,
this guy,
it's a joke.
This guy literally didn't have a helmet on, and I said, "Mate, you want to put your helmet on?" And he's like, "Nah, man, no, we trust you guys. You know, you look after us." And I was like, "Nah, mate, you might want to put your helmet on now." And he was just so kind of blasé about it, and I'm thinking like, this is, you know.
Did he put his helmet on?
Yeah, I think my boss made him. Okay, I think we got outside the gate and it was on the radio. What the fuck's he doing without the helmet? Yeah, mate, you need to put your helmet on now. So I think it all depends on what area you're in as well. You know, there's different objectives and tactics depending on where you are and stuff. And the one thing I kind of got from Afghanistan really early, which I try and bring it back to. I think we all go through things in life where you should try and take as many lessons from as you can. And the one thing from the firefights I learned was having the Taliban, you know, look at you and they could see you and you couldn't do anything about it. You know, it's like life sometimes, you know, you can't, you know, control the controllables. There's no point. I used to waste so much time and energy worrying about what could happen. Or, you know, they're hiding are they in that bush over there? Are they behind that tree? Are they in this ditch? Are they going to shoot from the left or the right? And you know, you'd spend 2 hours sitting on this compound before you get down off the ditch with all these made up scenarios in your head of how you're going to die and who's going to die and who's going to... And actually, a lot of the time, it would never, ever be as bad as that. And I think, you know, we do that in life. You know, it could be a dentist appointment. It could be, you know, you've argued with a pal of yours and you think, oh, I don't want to see him in the pub, and the next see him. When you build things up so much, a lot of the time, it's never as bad as you think it's going to be. And that's one thing I try and stress when I go into my workshops and talks, that, you know, control the controllables, you know, be as best prepared as you can be. But if you can't do anything about it, then don't stress about it, don't sweat it, you know.
It's like public speaking in general. I've done quite a bit of that, and like, you know, a lot of people, when you stand up in front of a crowd of people and everyone, it's funny because we can talk in a conversation like this, but the minute there's more than 10 or 15 people who are all looking at you at the same time, you feel your chest tightening up a little bit. The first few times you do it, especially, and like, you just have to relax and just realise, you know, what's the worst? What is the worst thing that can happen in this situation, and how likely is that to happen? But
you're not going to get shot at.
Well, yeah,
yeah.
Well, exactly.
The thing is, when it got shot at again, a lot of the time, you know, we would, you'd have to be really, you know, have a bad day at the office. A lot of the time, we'd overcome them. So it was that thing, you know. Generally, what is the worst that could happen? You know.
Well, when you've been through bad situations like you have, and from my experiences in life where I've had anything happen to me before, I always think about that and think, that's not going to happen to us today. So, you know, this is quite easy moving forward. And I'm sure that you have that. If you're doing a speech or whatever, you think, well, I'm not getting shot at today.
Yeah, so, totally. Yeah.
Like, what's the big deal? Do you know what I mean? Gives you a lot of confidence when you've overcome things, and obviously you've overcome more than most, mate.
I always say that, you know, when you're talking about developing resilience, I think people don't always give themselves enough credit of what they have been through, and they'll say, oh, I'm trying to get over this and it's really struggling. You think, well, you know, you might have had a really hard life anyway. Look at all the things you have overcome in your past, you know. Look at them, look how strong you've been to overcome them. You're actually a lot stronger than you are. And I think a lot of the time people don't give themselves credit for just how resilient they are.
That's a bit of an English thing to do, though, isn't it? Like, because we're sort of we're wary of giving ourselves too much credit in case we get a big ego. So often we do the opposite, which is give ourselves no credit for what we've done.
Yeah.
Do you know
it's
what
so
I mean?
important to give yourself a pat on the back and say, actually, you know what, I've come through that okay, and just get that confidence that it gives you for the next challenge and the next problem or adversity you're going to face, that actually, you know what, I'm better placed to overcome this.
How much contact do you have when you're out there with home life? Like, do you guys have, you know, Facebook and Instagram?
No,
so you're not Instagramming, you know, there's the Taliban, you know, but, you know, here's the plan for tomorrow, just gonna, you know what I mean?
Only you would ask that fucking question.
No, obviously that's a joke, but how much contact do you have with home?
Stories would have been good, wouldn't
yeah, exactly, yeah. Got him. But, like, you know, are you Facebooking with friends at home and sort of being like, oh, just nipping out for...
No, in Afghanistan we never had no Facebook or nothing. We used to have these thing called e-blueies, so they would you would type them up on this little crappy computer, and then it'd go as I think it would get as an email or something, or it'd get printed off as like a bit of a letter or something, and you get them, and you'd allow, I think it was half an hour a week you could ring home.
Wow.
On a satellite phone. But at the time I never had a girlfriend, so it was just ringing me dad really, and a couple of my mates, that was it. So that's what I feel. Again, you talk about the older lads who join the Marines when they've got, you know, wives and kids and stuff, and you think you might have a wife and 3 or 4 kids and you've got half an hour a week.
It's a single man's game, the forces.
Yeah,
it helps if you're all that, I would say.
I think so, yeah. I always said I wouldn't have liked to have stayed in if I had a wife and kids, because, you know, it is a long time away, and
it's a lot of strain on families. Like, you've got to appreciate what they've gone through. I mean, one thing I was wondering, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people who've never done this before wonder, you know when you're holding your gun and you're in the middle of a firefight. When you first did that, did you hesitate at all, or did it ever go through your mind of, fucking hell, I'm actually shooting at someone here? How did that feel?
Not really, no, because again, it's not like probably 99% of what maybe you're thinking or people think. Well, in Afghanistan anyway, a lot of the time it wasn't as if you were looking at someone. You'd see maybe the base of a tree or a bush or a ditch, and you'd see kind of flashes coming from it, and you'd hear it flying over your head, and you'd see a spark, and you just try and pepper that area. It's not as if you're looking at someone really close now shooting them. So it's not that. I think sometimes in the movies you think, don't you, you're looking at someone and it's that kind of, should I shoot them or not? Whereas in Afghanistan, you're getting, you're maybe sitting underneath a tree and there's branches falling on your head because they're shooting at you, and they're kind of there. You just firing back at them then. So I didn't really hesitate, and it's not. And
by that point, you'd been trained so much that.
Yeah, I think once they start firing, all the adrenaline kicks in, all the training kicks in, then you start communicating to the guy to the left and to the right, and it all just becomes like you're on a roller coaster. It's second nature, and I guess that's why you do all your training for it, for those moments when it does need to kick in. So I think, and if you do hesitate,
you could die.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah,
Well, the bottom line is, if it's going to be you or me, mate, it's not going to be fucking me today. Like, that's what I'm going to be thinking at that point.
Yeah.
You are quite a big target, though. So
I mean, I wouldn't have been the best hider. Hide and seek champion 2017.
That's an unusually sized bush for Afghanistan.
Fucking dresses in a fucking bear suit and hope that they think I'm wildlife.
Is that a Wookiee?
The dogs are really big out there.
Fuck me, I'm sound champion.
The dogs are huge. I saw one and they cut the ears off the dog, and this big white thing was lying there, and I swear to God, it looked like a polar bear.
Yeah.
It was huge.
Are you ever grateful? I know it sounds unusual. Are you ever grateful that you were out in the middle of the countryside and you weren't in a city environment where you had to engage people much closer?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. We had another company. It was more in like the district centre, Sangin DC, and a lot of it was a lot more people, and you're a lot more wary, thinking, are they enemy? Are they the good guys, bad guys? Whereas us, like you say, you're across farmers' fields and stuff. So I guess there's pros and cons to both, but I don't think I would have liked being in that built-up area of, we've done a few vehicle patrols, and you're going down these little alleyways, and you think anyone could just jump out any second.
Yeah.
And they were a lot scarier for me personally than being out in the big open field where you can see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know when you went out on the piss with the Marines and that? Bet you had some fucking belter nights out of them lot.
Probably can't tell any of them stories.
Nah, tell them. This kind of show, that's what it's for.
Yeah. Oh, nah, mate, just, again, that's what I miss about it. Just, the lads are unbelievable. Just the funniest, craziest, lovable rogues you'll ever meet.
Because in that environment, it's sort of... it's quite extreme personalities that are drawn to do that for a living. So nights out with them tend to be equally extreme.
Yeah, lads are crazy. Yeah, I know. I've got one mate who he woke up one morning and there was a shit on his car, and he'd come home and he just decided to stand on his own car and just do a shit on his roof. Woke up the next morning, he's like, there's fucking human shit on my roof, and so just the lads are just
but it is your own, so there's a plus. Yeah.
When it comes to nights out as well, when women hear you're a Marine, it doesn't do you any harm either, does it?
You probably go in one camp or the other. It's probably like you either hear you're a Marine, you think yes, or you hear you're a Marine, you're no.
Yeah, I've done it. I've got a girlfriend now, but I've done it in the past when you've maybe the girl you're chatting to, she's had an experience of a Marine, and then it's like, nah, I'm not going anywhere near you. Yeah, but I think the thing about the Marines, you've just got something about you. I think straight away you've just. I always joke and say that bloody hell, when I joined the Marines, I was a skinhead, really spotty, dead skinny, and since I've lost my leg, grew my hair, grew a beard, lost my leg, and then you've got that something about you. I've probably had more luck since I got injured, if you like.
You're a cultured guy now, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think just in the Marines, when you're out on the pitch, the lads, you just got that. You just feel like you just got something about you, and when you don't feel nervous, maybe chatting to girls or. Yeah, it's just like going back to when I first met those two lads. You just feel like you're part of something, whether it's a night out or in Afghanistan.
Your confidence grew as well as you went through all of that process, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So talking to women, a lot of men be like, oh, and I'm a bit intimidated, but after you've been through all that, it's like, what's a no from a woman? Like, it's fuck all, is it?
Yeah.
Depends how beautiful.
The thing is as well, a lot of lads will say that they're not in the Marines, so they'll say something else, and so like dolphin trainers, that's always a good one. Or underwater ninja fighters and stuff, just great, and just having that banter. I think because there's no women allowed in the Marines as well, so it's just men. So because you got to be quite quick-witted as well, and you got to have decent banter to be able to take it and give it. So then when you're out on the piss,
Do you think that's? I mean, without getting too, do you think that's part of the appeal though as well? Because
I think it's changed. Women, you're gonna
like,
say.
do you think if I'm signing up and they're like, oh, the women aren't allowed in the Marines sort of thing? If anything, it just makes it seem a bit more prestigious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, in a way.
Yeah, I think
It adds to it from an alpha male side of things.
But it's changing now, though.
Is it?
I think. Well,
Fuck.
not that anyone has, or maybe I don't know, but I think they were. I think everything's got a bit PC now, hasn't it? So I think women are.
So one of my mates was a Navy diver, and he trained.
They've got to be super fit, those guys.
Yeah, he was a fucking animal, this cunt. And, he trained the lads as well at one point, and basically there was a woman coming. I think she'd done the commando training level or whatever. She's on a journey to prove how fucking fit she was.
Yeah.
And she was coming to pass out as a Navy diver, and apparently his gaffer said to him, "She doesn't fucking pass today."
Really?
Aye. So my mate, I've known him years, and that he said to all the other lads who were trying out while she was off in the women's changing rooms getting ready, and that he was like, "Lads, I'm gonna fucking beast you today," and they were like, "It's alright, we don't want to be on the course that passed out with a woman anyway, right?"
Yeah, well,
Wow.
So he literally fucking annihilated her until she quit.
they do a thing with that with the Marines. So if you want to work with the Marines, you need to have earned your Green Beret. So you can get people from the army who can do what's called the commando course. And in some ways, I mean, you could argue, say they only get 6 weeks of it rather than 32, but in some ways, then 6 weeks is sometimes a little bit harder because the Marines who are taking it have got that attitude, and you think, you want to be part of our club, then fucking hell, I'm going to make you, and it's that kind of attitude.
That was kind of what he had.
It's also sort of a logistical thing, like, if you've got a group of all men, the likelihood is there's very little sexual tension there between a lot of those guys. You know what I mean? If you mix the...
I like how you use very little.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you never know. Like,
everyone thinks again, because of that banter and because you're also, you live with each other all the time, most people would think the Marines everyone was gay just because...
I wouldn't have thought that.
Even if I did think it, I'd never say it to a Marine. You know what I mean? But
you need to meet some of my mates. Please.
Yeah. But what I mean is, if you're mixing the sexes and you're out in Afghanistan, and you sort of want that focus. It's almost like going to an all boys school. Do you know what I mean? There's no thought about the other side, or an all girls school.
It's only just come out recently, and on my Facebook, all the lads, and it's not me being sexist, but it's very much, the Royal Marines is built on over 350 years of just being one way, and you've got even little things, you've just everything about
this is only just being talked about now.
I think it's like literally last few months that they've said that they may let them in.
So
these liberal elites forcing us down this route. I cannot believe these people.
So this is in a lot of chats between you and your mates saying, should it happen or should it?
Yeah, and I think there's a part of me that thinks, listen, if a woman is fit enough and she can go and do it, then who's anyone to say no? But for me personally, just being in the Marines, it would just change the dynamics so much.
Naturally, it's going to change the dynamics, isn't it?
Yeah.
Would you be for a female?
How about this? I've got a
faction of the Marine. That's a different. Mixing them is very different to having like a female. I just don't think
it would work mixing if they were going to do some sort of commando.
Female Marines. Yeah, so if they want to have their
Marines.
That's brilliant.
Put that on your Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, we could think a logo. We've got people there who could do that. No problem.
Sure. Somewhat, I mean, you laugh, but like we've had pizza boxes mocked up with his face on over the last few weeks. That's as hard as his day gets, is having to look at his face on a pizza box, all right?
And retweet it.
Yeah, and retweet it. That's his biggest moral dilemma.
Life's gotten a lot easier since I stopped diving. It's fair to say that. But the thing is, I don't think you should ever. If someone's fit enough and they want to fight for our country, put a fucking gun in their hand by all means. But like, if there's an organisation that's been set in its ways for 300 plus years, to want to change that now, it is a massive change. So why not just give them their own version? Do you know what I mean? Let them do the
like
same.
The PGA Tour.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Like the tennis one and that,
Yeah, but they should always.
I don't know what'll happen, to be honest. Seeing that, I don't know what'll happen. I think they have said now people can go for it, but I've not heard yet about any women going forward for it and stuff. So it'd be an interesting one. What happens?
There's something quite funny about the army, isn't it? Because a lot of jobs nowadays are not, like we work in the creative industries. That's something that if, like a Mad Max scenario came around, we're not all still going to be uploading to YouTube. Do you know what I mean? But the Marines, the Army, and the Navy is about life and death, and it feels like it's sort of shaping the world in a way. Do you know what I mean? So there's a very different discussion to it, giving women equal pay in the workplace back in an office to getting women and men equality in a place where you could live or die. And it seems a lot closer to...
I had a moment where, so when you're diving, you have one man in the water and another man on standby who, if anything goes wrong, he's kitted up and ready to go in and pull you out. Now, when I'm in the water, if anything goes wrong, you need someone strong enough to pull me out.
Sure.
So I, for a fact, wouldn't allow a woman to do that job at that point. There's no way any woman in the world is going to be strong enough to fucking pull me out.
There's also no way that if any woman in the world hugged you, you would not try and fuck her. So that's the main problem, really, for you.
You've got us on that one.
It's the woman's safety.
I can't get it. Yeah, he's like, no, just let me put it. No, I can't.
So yeah, and obviously if we cut a hole in lubricant, because the seawater would be straight up there.
Right.
Fine.
Okay. Wow.
Okay. But yeah, no. So there comes a point, like you say, where it's
just
not
logistics is what he's thinking there. The logistics of fucking
he's
a
thinking
woman.
about this more.
Yeah.
It's not about politics. It's about what's practical.
Yeah.
I just think as well the dynamics of a room changes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When there's women
fucking
around,
big time. Because if if a 17-year-old me especially is, we're all, what happens when the man turns around and goes, right, this is how you wash your cock and bollocks, lads, and she's going, well, I don't have them.
Yeah.
Well, that's it, straight away, things like that.
Well, you get a female officer in and she stands next to him and she's fucking lathering up the beaver.
No.
How's that kind of fucking work?
Up the beaver. What are you even... Like, that's not the way it works.
Because I'll say, no, she's going to have to, do that again. I didn't say that.
I mean... And this, when they say 99.99 need not apply, that's why you need not apply, mate. All right? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. I'll stay right, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, it does change everything, doesn't it?
I'll have to come on and give it a year or something and see if there's any woman past, and we'll
maybe get her on.
Get her on, yeah.
To be honest,
I fucking love that.
I would also be interested to see, there probably are a lot of women who could pass the course.
Yeah, I think there is.
Serena Williams, for one. Beast.
Not now. She's
beast. She's pregnant now, isn't she?
Oh yeah, she is.
Yeah, she probably could still do it now. To be fair to her, she is pretty incredible.
I suppose as well. What you do if
someone gets pregnant
last night out before you go to Afghan and with your boyfriend, whatever, and then you go to Afghanistan.
And some of them would deliberately do that to get out of going to Afghan.
Yeah, women are really sneaky like that, aren't they?
Just people are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But then at least if someone got pregnant while they're out there, they're either fucking the Taliban or they're fucking someone on the bench.
No, genuinely, there's a lass on Instagram who I happen to be like following at one point.
Sure.
Shouldn't really admit this, but and she was a fucking dime piece. Like, she was an absolute 10 out of 10.
Right.
She had like curves. She looked fucking unbelievable. And I was like,
when they dress up in the army stuff, it's just a costume. It's not.
No,
it's not a real
she
thing.
joined the fucking army in that, and I'm like, what the fuck? And I'm like, imagine being like, there's just no way I wouldn't be able to fucking have a crack. By that I mean ask permission. But yeah,
when
you were never alone in a foxhole.
Funny enough, when I was in training, we had to go on. So again, being in the Marines, I've been in the Marines a couple of years, I think, at that point, just being used to being surrounded by men all the time.
Yeah.
And we went to an army camp to learn how to drive, and it was funny seeing like the lads, because they're not used to it, and they're like, "Fucking hell, seeing her over there," because there's no Marines there's no women on the Marine camp. And
a 5 out of 10 when there's no women that's ever been on instantly is like a 10. Like lads will just dramatically lower standards. Like if she's the only girl there as well, because it's like that office secretary sort of thing, isn't it?
Is it?
You ever had you've never had one woman?
I've never had a secretary.
No, I wish I had a fucking secretary.
Yeah.
But no, like,
and that's why you'll never have a secretary.
If there's no women there, and then all of a sudden one woman appears, like, lads, it's like flies on shit, isn't it?
It's just that dynamics again, isn't it? Yeah, I think it'd be, and I think that's what annoyed a lot of lads when it came out, because it doesn't seem like it's been people in the Marines who've thought it's someone in
some politician
sort of, yeah.
And that's never good when it comes to the military, to be honest.
But I mean, that's part of the problem, I guess, with military, is that it is always going to be dealing with politics, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people will have said, well, my granddad was in World War I or World War II, and those are very different wars to Afghanistan and Iraq.
I remember I'm guessing that the decision came from Whitehall or someone back in the UK, but I always remember when we were in Afghanistan, one of the big things to notice Taliban was when the sun was shining in the sky, it would shine down on any bits of metal. So, for example, if the Taliban was holding a radio, it would glimmer and you'd see something. It was a real good combat indicator that the enemy was there. And then some bright spark decided to, as a PR stunt, Hearts and Minds, that we'd give everyone radios to sing out the great message of the British troops. So then suddenly what was a really good tactic of, there's Taliban, is he Taliban? Every man and his dog had a bloody radio, and then suddenly you've got a reason to it, and so that's the type of decision I think where it's come from those type of people who've maybe not got any
big wigs, fuck everything.
Theresa,
not got any grasp.
2 weeks in a row now where Theresa's fucked it up. NHS last week, Army this week. What else can you fuck up, Theresa?
All right, mate. So
we're getting some for Brexit next week,
yeah,
right, mate?
You're at a stage. We've got this stage where you were in the hospital bed and you have to make a decision now about your leg, because I think, am I right in thinking after watching Paragon, you were trying to, obviously, for as long as possible, hold on, and it was a guy who you'd spoken to in the past that said, I thought you would come to this decision.
Yeah. It was probably the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life, because I think when it comes to, especially in the medical world, or I suppose in life in general, I think if you're told to do something, it's a lot easier than having, the onus on yourself to make the right call.
Yeah.
And so I woke up and basically I lost 6 centimetres of my fibula and tibia.
Wow.
And basically, I don't know how the leg was still attached. So I had the big chunk of the thigh missing.
That looked unbelievable.
Yeah.
Wow.
But the damage to the leg was done below the knee. So I'd lost 6 centimetres of the fib and tib. I woke up out the coma with this huge cage on, and they were like, we can either amputate your leg right here, right now, or you can keep this cage on. We're going to break your leg in a separate position. You're going to get a couple of spanners. You're going to basically pull the bone apart, 1/4 mil a turn, and over the period of 14 months it will have grown back the bone, because as you're pulling it apart so slowly, the bone regrows. It will strengthen up over 14 months. We can take the cage off and your leg will be back to new.
Wow.
So
that's really a simple, for me, I would have instantly went, we'll do that then.
Yeah, well, for me, so my dad as well was like, if there's a chance of it working, give it a go. But then I spoke to other people, and I spoke to my surgeon at the time, who I was very good friends with, and he said he should amputate it, because I think he knew then, just because he's a surgeon, he sees this all the time, and he's been in the military, 30 years I think it is, and he knew my mentality. So he knew that I wouldn't have been happy with a life not being able to walk and stuff, or do the things I want to do, if you like. But at the time, I was, I think 21, 22. So I thought, if there's a chance of saving the leg, there's no chance. I'm starting to chop parts of my body off that don't need to be chopped off just yet. So after, I weighed up, and it was horrible, because I was asking everyone for advice. I was, the cleaner would come in, I'd say, what would you do? Would you amputate or keep the cage? And literally anyone who walked in the ward, I asked for advice. I just didn't know what to do. And then in the end, it comes to a point, and she said, look, you need to make a decision. What are we going to go for? And I said, look, I'll give the cage a go. And then that was the start then of 14 months of having the cage on. And to be fair to them, the cage did work. It did grow back to 6 centimetres of leg. And I was going to Headley Court, which is the Rehabilitation Centre. I mean, I had 27 different injuries at the time. Shrapnel to my face, forearm, broken elbow, broken sternum, chunk out this forearm, chunks out both thighs, and broken both lower legs. So after a few months, everything else had healed, and there was just this big cage on. That was the only injury. And I was going through Headley Court, and the cage eventually got taken off. But there was so much nerve damage to the leg, the ankle was almost fused together, and you could literally put a lighter underneath the foot, and you couldn't feel anything. And
was it almost like dragging around a dead weight?
Yeah, it was horrendous. And the thing in the end, I mean, like I said, it did work. I went from a wheelchair to crutches to a walking stick, till eventually I could walk, okay-ish. But I couldn't run, couldn't play football, couldn't be active. I was taking a lot of painkillers. And the most frustrating thing for me was I couldn't plan my life. I didn't know whether tomorrow was going to be a good day or a bad day. Some days I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. Other days it wouldn't hurt me at all. Or some days I'd do too much, and then I'd be in bed for 2-3 days. And that kind of inconsistency, not being able to plan anything, not being able to be active, that got to me in the end. And I was surrounded by guys, like I said before, a big help with the mindset and the recovery was being around like-minded people who've been through similar things. So to be around other amputees, or like amputees, I wasn't amputee at this point, but being around amputees and seeing these lads, popping their leg on, going for a run, climbing a mountain, learning to ski again, and all. I was thinking, I'll never be able to do any of that with this leg that, like you said, is dead weight, and I just become really frustrated, and that's when I started to feel depressed, really. Like, I watched your gym video and you talk about, you're getting in the gym and stuff, and how it makes you feel, and I felt I couldn't do a lot of that because of this leg. I felt disabled.
When you have gone from, as you were, one of the most active human beings on the planet, to being bedbound at times.
Exactly.
Your identity is completely about.
Yeah. We see a lot of professional athletes, Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder, Ricky Hatton, the boxers and fighters. When they stop dead in their tracks from being extremely active to nothing, they go downhill for a bit, and I would imagine that must have been really hard.
Yeah, because I got back from Iraq. I got Royal Marine Commando tattoo on me. The best bit about being in the Marines was when anyone asked you what you'd done for a living. I was in the Royal Marines, and it was like going from having that identity to, when I had a pair of jeans on, I walk with a limp. And I was thinking, people say what you do, and you have to explain, I've got this broken leg, but it's not broken, and but I used to be in the Marines, and it was like
that identity that you'd worked so hard for.
It's just totally gone.
Yeah.
And you're always trying to be the pinnacle, almost like you say, of the military, and you try to really, and suddenly you were just this once a Marine, broken kind of, it killed me. It absolutely killed me. And then after 18 months, that's when I said, I can't live my life like this. I need to take control of my life again. And it was a real tough time. And what made it even harder was my dad was obviously, like we spoke about, he brought me up and we were best mates. And he was dead against the amputation. Like, he was just like,
I seen that on the Paragon.
Yeah, he was, listen, you're so lucky to be alive. Lucky you've even kept your leg. Just be grateful that you can walk. Who cares if you can run? Just be happy walking. And I was grateful that I was alive, but at the same time I thought, Dad, like, listen, I'm a young lad. I've got this attitude now from the Marines where I want to go out and experience life. I want to travel. I want to push myself.
You are not a victim. That's one thing you've proven throughout everything that we've talked about. You wouldn't be beaten.
Exactly, and this was, look, I'm not letting this define me, beat me. I want to get out and do things, and he couldn't see that. He just thought, you're my only son, you're my firstborn, I don't want to see you go in hospital again. What happens if something goes wrong? All that. So
he admitted on Paragon he was a little bit selfishly worrying, because obviously what he'd been through, having to look after you and your sisters. Well, what if I have to now look after him again and become like a carer almost?
Yeah.
He was panicking.
Yeah, and I think that was really brave of him to admit that, because it was, I think, my kids, you think, what happens if your whole life is affected, isn't it? And their life, and he was worried about whether I go depressed if it did go wrong and I was bedbound and all that kind of stuff. And so that was probably the hardest bit about coming to the decision to have the leg amputated, knowing that I was going against my dad, someone who had so much respect and love for, and having to say, actually, Dad, on this time, I'm going to go against you. And that was tough, but thankfully now it worked out. It worked out in the end. But at the time, it was tough to go against him.
It's quite a turning point as well for a lot of people when you make a decision against a parent, especially if you've only got one parent. Then it's huge. That's a much bigger deal. Yeah.
And one of the interesting talking points I really enjoyed on Paragon was about being called disabled. Like it seems like you were dead against that. Like, and you were talking to the lad who was the weightlifter.
Yeah, Brad was born with cerebral palsy, and he calls it differently abled.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a great way to call it. And for me, there was a point for me when something kind of, switched in my head, and I thought, I don't want to be even looked upon or have anything to do with the word disabled. And I got into running, not running a lot, but I done my first Liverpool half marathon. And again, it goes back to that mindset of the Marines. I thought, I'm this Marine again, I'm running a half marathon, that's me, I'm flying again, young Marine, all this.
This is not great when you finally got back running.
Yeah, it was, but the problem was, though, is I was used to, again, pushing myself to be the best, and I was just taking part in this half marathon, and I'd probably not trained as much, and I got to mile 11 and hit a wall, and I sound really terrible now, but there was people running past me who were like quite fat, and I'm thinking, how the fuck is he running past me? And I'm thinking, and it killed me, because I thought I was used to being this young Marine, really fit, and I thought, and people are jogging past me going, obviously seeing the leg and thinking, come on mate, keep going. And I was thinking,
Don't
What are
patronise.
you talking to?
Who the
Like,
fuck
don't
are you
ever,
encouraging?
don't- yeah.
Do you know what I've done?
Yeah, it was kind of like, you don't need to encourage me, I'll encourage you type thing. And I finished the run and I got back and I think I'd done it in 2 hours, but it killed me. It broke me, the fact that people were looking at me as, come on mate, keep going. And then I thought, I'm never ever going to run a race and have people, fair enough, people might beat me, but they're going to have to run a good race to beat me now. And then that was that kind of
Not being
linked
a victim.
into being, not being a victim, not being disabled. And it's like, listen, if I can run a 6-minute mile or, then, or I go to the gym 5 times a week and you tell me what I'm not able to do that you are. And it was that kind of, I've been on stag do's where we've been, go-kart, we've done high obstacle things, we've learned to surf, I've learned to ski, I've skydived, rock climbing, go-kart, everything. It's like, if there's something I can't do, then maybe, but up to now, there's not been a point where I've come to that.
Which is ironic when you say the word disabled. Like, this is why you bring that into question, because it's like so many people with both their legs, both their arms, who aren't amputees and all that, who are sitting there doing that on the couch all the time, like just festering away, and you're living life to the absolute fucking max, aren't you?
It does sound a lot like you've like what the Marines gave you was a really good structure to sort of achieve whatever you wanted. So because it is quite it's obviously constructed to give you like a tactical idea or a strategic idea of how to achieve whatever goal it is.
That's what they say. It's a state of mind.
Exactly, yeah.
Massively, and I think that it gives you that confidence to know that you can go and achieve.
Yeah.
I think when you talk to people and you tell people about your dreams, I always say, if your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough. If you speak to someone and you say, I want to go and achieve this, and they don't think, fucking hell, mate, you're taking a piss, that's when you're about right then, when people are going, and you want them, and that's what, I think the Marines kind of, I've got that. It's like, you're going to go and earn this green beret, you've earned this, then, the world's your oyster, go and do whatever. And I think that's definitely given me a good foundation since losing the leg to say, well, actually, it's only a leg, come on, what can we do? I can adapt, I can overcome.
And anyone who ever achieved anything great, where you look at fighters who've won world titles or anything like that, at one point when they were just a bum in the gym, just learning, and they had a dream of one day I want to be world champion, there were people laughing at them.
Yeah. And
so anyone who has achieved anything seemed a bit mental. The
best thing is a good dose of adversity. I think it's such a humbling, great experience. It's not great at the time, but it's everyone you look through, like you say, sportsmen, boxers, they've all had at some point, whether they're getting told no or they've had a setback, and go on to achieve. Even you look at business entrepreneurs, most of them have been bankrupted a couple of times within their lives. You need that adversity to appreciate it, to regroup and to go again. And the big thing as well, I think, is surround yourself by good people. It sounds so obvious, and it sounds so easy to do, but people just don't do it. Another quote, I'm full of quotes, but the other quote I love is, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to change rooms. And it's like, I turn up at my run.
Sorry, I need to go.
Actually, that's part of the reason why I had you as a mate, because I thought,
go, yeah.
Well, while he's here, he knows so much about fucking media and podcasts, I can just talk to the camera.
But
champion.
But joking, that is though, what makes you guys, good at what you're doing. You bounce off people who are better than you. I turned up at my running group.
Credit to himself. Oh right, okay, yeah, okay. I mean, you are better than us, but all right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I turn up at the running group, and I'm the slowest one there.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that, because I know surrounding myself by good people, I'm going to improve. And I think too many people, just kind of rest on.
Or they want to be the richest or brightest or biggest, strongest in that group of people. Everyone wants to feel like they're the best.
Yeah.
But there's a saying, another quote where we're bouncing, in MMA is iron sharpens iron, and if you're in an environment where you're surrounded by good people, it will make you better. There's just no way it can't.
Yeah. And again, all that coming together with the kind of, say, what the Marines get. Well, even in the Marines, you're surrounded by people who you're taking a lot off. So I think that's probably where it stems, just being around by good people, and then aspiring, despite the leg, aspiring to think, actually, you know what, I can go and achieve something great here if I put into practice what the Marines have taught me.
You're also, obviously, adversity because you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, big Liverpool fan, yeah.
So 20, 25-ish years of just constant
no
disappointment
League
for us.
wins,
No, well, I mean, yeah, we talk about that. We've been to Champions League finals.
A few days, good days out though.
Champions League final winners. You did that. So
a few FA Cups, a few League Cups.
More than Newcastle, to stop you whinging.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, definitely had it better than Newcastle in recent years. Yeah. Well,
we've got Rafa now, so you're
I love
your
Rafa.
best manager in the last 20 years. So.
I don't think I've ever felt so much affection. Like, I know everyone likes Jurgen Klopp, but I've never felt so much affection for a manager as I have for Rafa Benitez.
Yeah. Before Jurgen come, I would have had Rafa back.
Oh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
Yeah.
really, since Rafa left, you went downhill a bit, didn't you? Really, until Suarez gave you that 1 year, I suppose.
The Suarez season, yeah. But
Suarez season was it.
Anyone could have managed us that season, I think.
Oh yeah, mate. Anyway.
Although Brendan Rodgers has obviously gone on to do great things at Celtic. But, I'm not taking the piss. He's a nice guy, but
so,
I didn't feel the same affection I did
obviously
for Rafa. And then I think the video that always gets me, and I probably cry at this video every time, is the one where he's at the Justice for the 96, and everyone's chanting his name.
Yeah.
And
when he's getting upset about it.
Yeah, because you see something
drives.
different to what you see on Match of the Day every week, which is someone who looked like quite a surgical guy. They make him out to be this wanker who's sort of like just, he's a bully or whatever, or he expects certain things, and players talk about him in a certain way, and everyone tells those stories.
As soon as he come to Newcastle, he was doing like charity work straight away. Yeah. Almost the day he landed, he was going to the evenings where they were putting on stuff for the kids and that. So I think he's just a class act, to be honest.
When he left, he gave £96,000.
Yeah, of his own cash as well.
And he still lived on. He still lived near Liverpool.
His family still lives down there now.
I
think he just commutes back and forward.
But he's the same happened when he went to Chelsea. There's a lot in his press conferences. A lot of the journalists apparently were coming out.
Chelsea, though,
but I mean, from the fans,
won the Europa League, so couldn't have been that bad.
But that man sort of takes success wherever he goes. But obviously Real Madrid. But the interesting thing was when he went to Chelsea, a lot of the London-based journalists said, "I didn't know Rafa was like this. I didn't know he was like this." And most of them were just saying, "Well, we just assumed that he was," because they never went to a fucking Liverpool press conference.
Because of the reason why though is because he did the "let's talk about facts," and as soon as that happened,
I was in Afghan then.
Yeah,
really. So did you watch the Liverpool games out there?
No, I couldn't watch them, but I got obviously updates because I had a few bets with a few of the Mancs out there. Because it was when I think United won the league by 4 points that season, but it was I was gutted when he done that.
Yeah.
So how do you get from the point where you just start running again and you've got these fat bastards overtaking you and you're a bit pissed off to thinking I'm going to break a world record?
Yeah, so I started running, and then like everyone, putting on social media, Twitter, Instagram about me running and stuff, and Help for Heroes then got in touch and they said about this thing called the Invictus Games, and it was basically the Americans have something called the Warrior Games, which is almost like a mini Paralympics but for injured soldiers. And then Prince Harry had been there, seen it, and said, "I'm basically going to rob it and call it the Invictus Games."
Invictus is a better name for the
The Warrior Games does sound good.
Invictus is awesome, man. That sounds mint. Invictus.
Yeah, I don't know what it means.
I like it.
I've done both. I got to go to Washington and do the Warrior, and it was cool. But I think Prince Harry done a great job at putting on, and the people he got involved, and it was really cool. So they, Help for Heroes, said, "Look, we're going to put this on. Would you like to go and take part?" And while that was going on in the background, I'd looked at the Paralympics and thought, looked at potential opportunities, and I'd looked at, there was no distance for my classification running 5 and 10k, which I like doing long distance stuff. There was no race in the Paralympics. So I've got another Marine of mine who lost both his legs, Joe Townsend, and he got into triathlon. And he said, "Look, Andy, if you want to get into the Paralympics, you need to try triathlon. That's going to be in Rio 2016. So I went down to the British Triathlon in Loughborough, took part in that, ran really quick. They said, "Great runner," got on the bike, was okay, and then nearly drowned in the water. I improved my swimming, but not to the point where it was going to get into Rio. And
can I ask what, in terms of swimming, do you have, so I'm assuming for the bike you have, do you have different fittings?
Yeah, so I've got 5 or 6 different legs. So I've got like a sprinting leg, a long distance leg. You can get a leg that clips onto a bike, for the cleats.
Right.
You can get a swimming leg, but
was that not very good? Was it? Did you?
A lot of amputees know, because it's all. I mean, I use it when I go on holiday around the pool.
Yeah.
Like going in the water with the kids and stuff. But if I'm getting a shower, I always think there's no point in having a shower leg, because you need to wash your stump. Mm-hmm. So you can't wash yourself properly if you're wearing the leg. So I just hop into the shower and wash myself and then put my leg on. But yeah, you got golf leg, swim leg, like say cycle leg.
I've heard from people who've been amputated before who said that they still have the nerves twitch, like as though they can feel it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Do you still get that?
Now and again, I mean, some people get it really bad. It's called phantom limb pain, and so I mean, I can still move my foot now. Obviously, I'm not, but I can, and you can feel it, and it just feels like pins and needles. But some people can get that, like, really, and it causes a lot of pain. Yeah. Might happen maybe once a week. I'll get a moment where I'll just kind of, and that'll be it, gone. But some people can get it quite bad. But I think because of my injury, because there was so much nerve damage, I think maybe that's helped anyway. So that when I've had the leg amputated, there wasn't many good nerves left anyway.
So you did the triathlon, and
I done the triathlon.
Got the bug for it, yeah?
Yeah, I got the bug for sport, really, and then went to the Invictus Games. And then again, a lot of my friends were going on to Rio, and I thought there's got to be other amputees that like running long distances. So I've done a bit of Googling, and because it's not in the Paralympics, there's no official records for it. So I started looking upon other amputees, and I came across a Canadian guy called Rick Ball, and he could run 10k. He held the record for the 10k, the half marathon, and the marathon for a single leg amputee. Again, being the competitive knob that I am, I thought I want to tweet him, so I tweeted him, and then he didn't get back.
It happens to me all the time, man. When I try and get guests on the podcast, people, it's a nightmare.
Louis Theroux, just one little tweet back would be lovely.
I seen you tweet about that.
Yeah. You can't miss him.
Yeah. So
and then I didn't get back to you, no?
I didn't get back to me, but I thought it was all over the internet that this is the time to beat. So I started going for it, and that was it. And that was always in the back of my mind. And then how the documentary came about with that, really, as I was doing these motivational talks, going to schools, businesses, and I do a lot of work for Liverpool Football Club. And I went on their Thursday Night Live show, and then after it, one of the producers said to me, "Mate, here's me card." He said, "My name's Matt Owen, here's me card. Can we go for a coffee next week? I've always wanted to make a documentary since I went to uni. I've just sat on my arse and done this bloody job at Liverpool for the last 10 years. I've not put my degree to use. Listen, let's have a coffee." So we went and sat down for a coffee, and I'm thinking, like, I've never been in a documentary. I don't know where to even start. He says, "Well, I've never made one either, but let's just get a camera, let's start rolling, and you breaking this record potentially could be something really good." And we literally, like, the running then became, I mean, I was always keeping fit, and I was trying to break this record, but I think it gave me a good pressure to think, fucking hell, I've really got to try and go.
When the camera's on you,
yeah.
I felt that when I made that gym video, that was just my camera. I could have just stopped it at any moment, but I remember thinking, and I was benching, I'm like, come on, you bastard.
You and your little socks.
In my head.
Yeah,
in my little mind.
Yeah.
So that gave you some extra oomph, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it was. The funny thing was, though, it just got bigger and bigger, and that pressure just grew. It was like, you're doing it on your own with the camera, and then people walk in or something, and before you know it,
everyone's asking about it every time they see you and that.
But there's a thing which I do, it's called the Edison effect, and it's by saying something, you're going to do it. It increases your likelihood of doing it.
Sometimes I'll do that, like I'll tweet out something, like, and I think that really works, having a goal.
Massively, yeah. And not keeping it to yourself, telling
put it out there. Yeah. It definitely helps, and I think Dorian Yates spoke about this. He was a champion bodybuilder, and he said, it's talking about your goals, you can almost talk them into reality.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor, when he first started fighting in the UFC, he said, "I'm going to be a 2-weight world champion," and he wasn't even a 1-weight world champion. People were laughing at him, and then he sat there with 2 gold belts in 2 years' time. It does work.
That book, The Secret, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. I've read the book, The Secret. I love that, and it was that kind of thing. You've almost willed it into a thing. And so we sat there, started filming, and it was literally just me and him on the track, running around the track. And then he was filming me in the gym, and then we set a date for June, I think it was, and I put on Facebook, I need some pace makers, can anyone run 10k in around 36 minutes? So the world record was 37:53, the unofficial world record. So I just put on Facebook, not knowing anything about running. The only running I was doing was with my dog down the beach, that was it. And then I'd just done a talk for a corporate client, who then started following me on social media, and she said, "I've seen you wanting a pace maker. I don't run, but you need to speak to this girl called Rachel Burns, her name is, and she runs for Great Britain and Liverpool Harriers." So I messaged this girl Rachel. I said, "Rachel, will you be a pace setter for me? I'm going to put on my own event, and I just need a few pace setters." And she said, "I'm more than happy to help, but I think what you're trying to do, you need to speak to a running coach." So at this time, all the documentaries still going on, and then the documentaries then now getting introduced to this running coach.
Yeah.
And the running coach, guy called Tony Clark for Liverpool Harriers, a genius, absolute great guy. And I started running with them. So this documentary's just gone from me and Matt just running around the track on our own to now we're in a running club. We got, like I say, Jamie Carragher come to see me when I was injured, and we've kept in touch with him. So kind of dropped
Did it make you feel better that when you ran with him, you were definitely quicker than him?
I don't know. He's still competitive.
He's
now.
still quite quick. Yeah,
he's definitely competitive, judging by the YouTube football matches. He kicked a few lumps out of some of the young lads. Like,
not to challenge him to a race, maybe.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but so to text him, you know, he said, "Can we come and interview you for part of the documentary?" Because it worked well because he come to visit me when I first got injured, so there was a good link in there.
Yeah,
with the documentary.
I'd like that.
And then Paul Smith, Big Smith, boxing family in Liverpool. Paul, Callum, Liam. We trained with them in the gym. So then suddenly, we done some stuff for the Invictus Games, and Bradley Wiggins was there. And then I've got a friend who knows Tom Hardy, and then he done a voiceover for us.
Great.
And then it's suddenly, hang on, this is like...
You're pulling in all
It's a proper
names.
fucking movie now, isn't it?
Yeah. What you're saying, though, you put it out there, and it sort of, it comes together.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's like when my podcast, when I set out to make a podcast, I thought might run out of people, but things just happen. People just pop up out of nowhere, and it does happen like that.
Well, my running coach coached Ronnie O'Sullivan. That's how we got Ronnie in. and Ronnie suffered with depression. He got into running, and running really helped him. And like I say, I never got diagnosed, but you know yourself when you're not feeling great, and that was my reason for getting a dog and getting out and getting active. So then that really fitted in really well with Ronnie. And again, it wasn't as if we crowbarred anyone into it. It naturally just kind of, hang on, well, we've met him and this works well. And then before you know it, it was like something, a little documentary that was going to live on YouTube or Vimeo.
There's nothing wrong with YouTube, but
ITV,
it's a bit better.
Get bigger views than ITV on YouTube. But well, it's true.
Yeah, I'm looking at your bloody subscribers, you know. So, but yeah, at the time, it was, you know, that's all we thought, something to live on YouTube or Vimeo or something like that, you know, will do one day type thing. But then when ITV come in, it was, I love the story more. Obviously, Paragon's a story in itself, but I love the story of Matt. You know, Matt was a guy who, you know, we can all sit there in our normal 9-to-5 jobs and just think, yeah, this is me. And he thought, you know what, I've done this degree, I love films. He's a real geek, film geek. He said, I want to make a film. And he got made redundant a week after we started filming, which made it a real awkward conversation, because it was like, do you still want to carry on with the film, or what do you want to do? And to his credit, he said, look, I've got a bit of money there saved, let's keep on rolling. And
if anything, it probably made him more tunnel vision on the project. It
did. And you know, I think that story in itself, to you know, chase your dreams, you know, don't get bogged down by the 9-to-5. You've got to do this just because everyone thinks you should. You know, if you've got a passion, go and do it. Like you with the channel, how you started up, look, it's something I want to do, let's just go for it. And then it, like I say, it snowballed, and then that gave me with the running became, look, I've got to break this record now. There's all this pressure. The documentary's going to be here. And then thankfully, like I say, it come to the night when we had drones up in the sky and 4 or 5 guys with cameras following me and stuff, and it was a great night, and thankfully, I went on and broke it.
That moment when you broke the record and the camera zooms in on you and you can see so many emotions going through your face, like it was an amazing shot that they got. How were you feeling at that moment when you went across the finish line?
Goosebumps now, mate. It was everything that I'd wanted, because it was such a long process, from the getting injured to the rehab to the decision, shouldn't I have the leg amputated, to the training and the time I put in. This was like the ultimate justification that I'd made the right decision in having the leg amputated. And it's something that I'm always searching for. Not that I need any justification now, but for a long time it was, did I have the leg amputated? You know, was it the right reason? And then to run a 6-minute mile, you know, that was a thing in the Marines. It was always a 6-minute miles, you know, it was a quick pace. And then to do it with one leg, it was like, it sounds really up my own arse, if you like, but I felt so proud of myself that, you know, I'd done it, you know what I mean? And I was just so grateful for the people who came into my life, you know, the running, Matt and Nick, who Nick was the cameraman, Matt, whose idea it was for the documentary, the running coach, the team around me, the family, friends I had there. It was just this kind of just immense pride that, you know, we'd had this vision. We didn't know where it was going to take us, but we thought, let's try and break the record. Let's make a documentary about the journey, trying to break that record. And then just to see it all, you know, come to fruition in the way it did was just such a happy feeling. And it was, you know, crying at the end, a big lump in my throat. And then, like, Jamie Carragher was there watching and stuff. And just a surreal night, I think, you know. There was one point in the race where as I ran down the home straight, it was great because the crowd was there. You got a real buzz, a real lift off everyone.
Yeah.
But then when you ran around the other side, it was quite quiet.
Mm.
And I think Jamie had realised this. And he's seen that maybe my facial expressions or something that I was flagging a bit. And lap 18, 19, he went and stood on the other side. And I'm running past and he was like, come on, Andy, keep it going. And I think I flew down that back straight, you know, because I had visions of being in a Yates's in Bootle, watching Istanbul.
Yeah.
And you see him like, come on.
That's surreal,
And
that
I'm
when
thinking,
it's like your football hero
Yeah.
is cheering you on.
And he's just done it to me. I'm thinking, he was doing that to the lads. And it was like, wow, this is crazy. And then, yeah, it was just an unbelievable night. I don't think I'll ever top it, to be honest.
Yeah. Mm. I'm looking at your life in my mind's eye here, thinking to myself, I was a young lad, lost his mother at a young age, probably went through as bad of a time at a young kid's age as you can, and then to go from that to, all right, you're a Royal Marine, now you're a world record holder, now on Sky a programme about you is on demand for everyone to watch, you know, like what is there left to achieve? Like, you know, you've done it, you've done everything.
35 minutes.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's been mental. Yeah, it's but what I'm loving as well, the impact that it's had on people as well. It sounds really cheesy to think, oh, you've inspired people, but you know, when it's like I do now for a job like motivational speaking, and I think what I try and get across is there's no one word. I mean, we all watch motivational videos and nice quotes and stuff, which is great, and they do work, but simply by being like the best version of you, you know, that automatically, naturally inspires people around you anyway. You know, sometimes you don't need to say something or do anything in particular. Just by you being the best version of you can be, that's enough sometimes. And I think what Paragon's done and what Matt's done, you know, it's all down to him really, the story he's told. You know, this isn't about me trying to say, I want to go and inspire people. This is selfishly me saying, I want to redefine myself. You know, I don't care about anyone in that sense. I just want to prove to myself that, you know, I'm still as good as I was, if you like, and despite the one leg. So
it was about perception, a lot of it. What you were saying earlier was, you know, when your leg was still attached to it, but it was almost a dead weight, and you didn't like the way people were looking at you, and now you've redefined that completely, because now people are again looking at you not just as that big strapping Marine, but they're now looking at you as he's a bloody world record holder, mate. You know what I mean?
Even that though, on a selfish point of view, it was the perception people have. It was if they had of me, what I wanted that to change, but what it's actually done is people are looking at themselves now as well, and the messages that I've got, literally thousands of messages saying, you know, I was in a really dark place and I've just watched Paragon and it's given me, you know, I want to live again, and it's like, wow, you know, I didn't expect kind of that, but or kind of funny messages saying, I've been putting off going for a run and I've just done a 1 mile, you know, 1 mile run around the block or something, or I've just went and bought a new pair of trainers. And you think if it, just by me trying to be the best version I can be, it inspires people, and I think if you can do that, you know, that's great. And like I say, we never set out to, well, I suppose we did in a way, but it was selfishly about me trying to break this record, and it's turned into this big vehicle now that can hopefully show people that anything's possible. You know, if you set your mind to it, you know, you surround yourself by good people, you stay positive, you know, you don't focus too much on the negatives, and you have that mindset which you can develop, you know, and use the adversities to grow stronger. And for me now, it's just been a great kind of, like I say, vehicle to drive forward and say, look, you know, if I can do this, I'm just a one-legged lad from Bootle, you know, if I can do it, then you know, why can't you?
Love it, mate. Absolutely love your attitude. I think everyone should feel this way. You got any more questions, mate?
No, I'm just fascinated to listen, really.
I'm absolutely, like, I'm pretty sure everyone at home is probably feeling the same way I am right now. I mean, you're mind-blown, to be honest with you, mate, at times. Like,
the thing is, man, like, you look at what you've done. When I say since we've been in touch, and I'm looking at the stuff you're doing, I think everyone's got their own little thing in life, haven't they, that they're good at, you know, and again, it goes back to that, just being what you can do and the best, you know, you being the best, you know, the best guy doing podcasts and YouTube videos. I think you can always aspire to go to that next level, and I think it's such a crime to stay in your comfort zone, you know, try new things, get out and push it. This
year especially, I've started feeling that way about trying to do different types of videos and not being a one-trick pony, do you know what I mean? And I mean, what is next for you? What do you want to do next after everything you've achieved, mate?
So at the minute I've just qualified as a personal trainer, so I'm into doing the fitness stuff, which is going well. Doing a lot more public speaking, which is great. But the next goal physically I want to try and break the 5k record. So I want to try and run 5k in under 17 minutes. That's like a 5.5 minute mile.
Yeah,
that'll be fucking tough.
So I'm going to try and go for that in August. And I've just signed a book deal, so I've got a book coming out in February.
Fantastic. Well, let us know when that's out, mate, and we'll promote that for you.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Well, one final question, mate.
Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, bloody hell, that's a good one.
It's the one I always like to ask people, just to see what they want.
I'd
people
love to think.
remember about them.
I'd love to think. I got another quote for you. Tupac, I always remember, said one, and he said, "I might not change the world, but I guarantee I will. You know, I might have had an impact on the one who does." So, like I say, going in doing these motivational talks, I'd love it if someone
who
was successful yet in years to come. Maybe I'm long gone, and someone might have thought, you know what, I remember this guy came in and done a talk for me, and you know, so if someone can just remember something about, I can achieve something, you know, or remembered something I've done or said, and thought if he can do it, then I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna give it a go. If anyone can think of me or look at me in that light, then I'll be happy with myself.
Well, mate, you're putting out a fucking shit ton of positivity, and I'm pretty sure everyone watching is inspired right now, because I am.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely, mate. Thanks for coming on, Andy. I'll put all of his details in the description below, and when the book's out, that'll be going in there, everything. Check them out on Twitter. Honestly, one of the best blokes we've had on this podcast. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks a lot, boys. Thanks.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you later.